sure everybody's noticed the price of groceries going up here lately. Well, not here lately, it's been happening for quite a few months. And also, the variety at the store is not what it used to be. There's been numerous food plant fires and accidents happen in 2022 alone. This map shows uh, where these accidents and fires have taken place, and it's called some people to question, is this being done intentionally? I found I found a couple of articles that discuss this issue. One is in the Western Journal. It's titled Another Food Processing Plant Catches Fire Amid Bizarre String of Incidents Across the U.S. It says 2 more food processing plants exploded in flames the weekend of April 30th. All this comes at a time when experts are talking about global food shortages as the nasty surprise in store for the world in 2022. No one was injured in the fire at the Purdue soybean plant in Norfolk, Virginia, and the cause has not yet been determined. Chesapeake firefighters battled an industrial fire this evening at Purdue Farms in the South Norfolk area. The Chesapeake Fire Department posted on its Facebook page. Plant operators reported a fire in large soybean processing tank. Firefighters climbed multiple flights of stairs with hose and equipment to access the standpipe system. Water was applied and the fire brought under control in approximately 1 hour, the Post read. The tank was cleared of all soybeans. On Sunday night, May 1st, a fire broke out at Salinas food processing plant in Fresno, California. No information was available on the cause of that fire. Although authorities have found no obvious links among the incidents, a number of food processing plants have been damaged in some rather strange incidents. During his April 22nd broadcast, Fox News host Tucker Carlson remarked on the odd series of food processing plant disasters that have befallen facilities all across the nation and noted the oddity that 2 of these plants were hit by falling planes in the same week.
So just moments before we went to air tonight, a plane apparently crashed at a General Mills plant, a food plant in Covington, Georgia. 6 tractor trailers were reportedly on fire. You're seeing pictures from the scene right now. This is the second time in a week that something like this has happened. On April 14th, the plane crashed into the Gem State Processing in East Idaho. What's going on here? Well, the story gets weirder. Food processing plants all over the country seem to be catching fire. A couple of days ago, a fire destroyed the headquarters of Azure Standard, one of the largest organic food distributors in the country. At the end of last month, a fire severely damaged a fresh onion packing facility in South Texas. In Oregon, a potato chip processing plant just reported a boiler explosion that sent workers to the hospital. Here's a news report on that.
Eastern Oregon, where crews are battling a major fire at a potato chip processing plant. Air 12 flew over the scene at Shearer's Foods on Highway 207 in Hermiston. We're told the fire was caused by an explosion of a portable boiler there. 2 people were taken to the hospital.
So industrial accidents happen, of course, but this is a lot of industrial accidents at food processing facilities at the same time the president's warning us about food shortages. They're getting hit by planes and catching fire. What is going on here exactly? Jason Rantz hosts a radio show in Seattle and joins us to put it into perspective. Jason, good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah, obviously, when something happens every so often, you obviously hope that there's no significant damage and certainly no one gets hurt, but you kind of write it off. It's not that big of a deal. Accidents happen. But when you've got well over a dozen food processing plants and warehouses getting destroyed or seriously damaged over just the last few weeks at a time when the food supply is already vulnerable, it's obviously suspicious, and it could lead to serious food shortages. That's why some folks are now wondering, well, number one, what's going on? And you've got some people speculating that this might be an intentional way to disrupt the food supply.
Wait, may I ask you to pause there really quick? Can I just ask you, I just want to nail this down so our viewers understand. There have been confirmed over a dozen disabling accidents at food plants in the last month, over a dozen.
Absolutely. And we're talking about some really significant plants. The Taylor Farms facility in Salinas, California was completely destroyed by a fire last week. We've had two major potato processing plants in Belfast, Maine and Warden, Washington that were completely gutted, which is happening at a time where we already have a potato shortage globally. You were talking about the onion supply at that Rio Fresh, but it's not just produce plants. Last month, there was a fire that took out a Nestle food plant out in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and that's impacting frozen food brands like Hot Pockets or Stouffer's, which maybe you might buy if you can't get fresh food from a warehouse that just exploded. And that Shearer's food facility you just mentioned in the open, I mean, that's the only West Coast facility that they operate. So there is some significant concern, of course, that this is going to impact the supply chain. Now, to be clear, the timing is very suspicious. It's obviously concerning. Police are saying that these fires are due to faulty issues with equipment, so they're not saying that this was intentional. Either way, it's obviously going to have some significant, implications in us getting our food.
Yeah. I mean, an hour ago, a plane crashes into a General Mills facility. We'd already planned this segment. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The onus is on people who think that's a conspiracy theory to explain what is going on. What are the odds of that? I have no idea. Jason Rantz, I appreciate your report tonight. We will follow up.
Thanks, Tucker.
There's a post on Facebook going around called America is Losing Its Food Security. The Great Reset. Cyber attacks on America's food supply have started. The FBI warned the AG industry on April 20th about ransomware cyber attacks. Last night, there was a fire at a food processing plant in America. It was the 18th such accident to hit our food processing plants and distribution centers in 2022. 18 such incidents in only 4 months is an unprecedented rate. Usually, there are a dozen or less in any calendar year. On April 22nd, there was an explosion at the Scherer's Foods in Hemmington, Oregon. On April 21st, an unidentified small plane crashed into the General Mills plant in Covington, Georgia. On April 19th, a mysterious fire destroyed the largest independent food distributor in the United States. On April 14th, a food processing plant in Salinas, California called Taylor Farms caught fire. On April 13th, a pilot crashed his plane into a potato plant in Idaho. On April 12th, the East Conway beef and pork plant in New Hampshire caught fire. All of that happened in the last 2 weeks. At the start of February, a fire broke out of the fertilizer plant in Winston-Salem. In January, a mysterious fire broke out at Van Drunen Farms plant in Illinois. That's too many mysterious fires in a very short time to be accidental, don't you think? On March 31st, a fire broke out at Rio Fresh Onion Factory in San Juan, Texas. On March 24th, a fire broke out at a potato processing plant in Belfast, Maine. On March 19th, a fire broke out at a Walmart food distribution center in Plainfield, Indiana. On March 17th, a fire broke out at a Nestle food plant in Jonesboro, Arkansas. You get the idea. Fire, fire, fire. According to Zero Hedge, the FBI is now warning that cyber attacks against agricultural targets are actually happening and may be an attempt to disrupt the supply of seeds and fertilizer. The FBI bulletin does exist. It was issued on April 20th. The key sentence: since 2021, multiple agricultural cooperatives have been impacted by a variety of ransomware variants. And the FBI waited until April of 2022 to warn anybody about it. So you have a rash of mysterious fires at food processing plants across the country, and simultaneously you have the FBI warning the agricultural industry that cyber attacks are a big problem and have been since 2021. And that's something that we've known for a while too, because that's been all over the news as well. The obvious question: what is the relationship between all the mysterious fires and the cyber attacks? I seem to remember a bald psychopath warning the world that he was now a prophet, and all these things would come to pass thanks to the corrupt global elites at the World Economic Forum. Klaus Schwab, founder of the World Economic Forum, previously predicted a cyber attack that will bring the entire world to a complete halt. He said the cyber pandemic will make COVID look like a small disturbance in comparison. He is the author of The Great Reset. So let's see what we are facing in 2022. We are on the brink of a global recession. The bond market is a mess. Inflation is out of control. There's a global food crisis brewing. Gas prices and food prices have skyrocketed. None of it makes sense unless you understand the Great Reset. Jen Psaki, we are not expecting a food shortage here at home, but we are acting to bolster food security around the globe. When the Biden regime tells you that something is not happening, you can take it to the bank that something is happening. You were warned. And this is a post that's going around Facebook here lately. So there's a lot of question. I mean, is it a big conspiracy? I don't know. It could be, or I think there's always some truth in conspiracy theories. Now, I did find on PolitiFact, they did a fact check on all of this, and it says no food plant fires aren't an attempt to create food shortages. Recent fires at food processing plants across the United States have sparked several conspiracy theories that someone is setting them intentionally in order to hasten the food shortage. None of the other scams work, so now they'll attempt to starve us, read an April 21st Facebook post. It shared a screenshot of a tweet that notes an odd coincidence that 18 U.S. food processing facilities have burned down in the last 6 months. The posts were flagged as part of Facebook's efforts to combat false news and misinformation on its news feed. It's not clear what anyone would have to gain by starving Americans, though at least one post suggests that Bill Gates would, but the conspiracy theory is spreading like wildfire on social media and conservative websites. Fox News host Tucker Carlson added fuel by noting 2 other recent fires and asking in an April 2022 segment what's going on here. Carlson said in the past week that small planes crashed at a General Mills plant in Georgia. It crashed near the plant, which was not damaged. And the Gem State Processing Plant in Idaho. In that crash, a pilot delivering packages for UPS died in a crash that her father told local newspaper was due to unsafe conditions caused by steam from a nearby chimney plant at the plant. The plant itself did not appear to suffer much damage. We looked at each of the 18 fires mentioned in the Facebook post and found no evidence that any of them were intentionally set. 12 were either ruled accidental or no foul play was suspected. 1 was at a vacant building that once housed a meat plant, and 5 others, the fires are either still under investigation or investigators have not publicly announced any cause found, intentional or otherwise. Some of the plants were completely destroyed or heavily damaged, while others suffered minor damage with little impact on food production. Though the post said the 18 fires happened in the past 6 months, only 12 of those happened in that time frame. Fires at large food processing plants can have a big effect on the nation's food supply. 4 large companies account for about 70% of U.S. beef production, according to data from the North American Meat Institute. A 2019 blaze at a Tyson's beef processing plant in Holcomb, Kansas, halted production there for 4 months, causing numerous supply chain and pricing issues. The American Association of Meat Processors said in a statement to PolitiFact that there doesn't appear to be any evidence of a deliberate attack on the food industry in the cases cited in the Facebook post. Tom Super, Senior Vice President of Communications at the National Chicken Council, a trade group that represents chicken producers, also doesn't see any cause for concern. I can only speak for chicken, but like any manufacturing plant industry, there are generally a few fires that occur each year across the country. Most of them are contained rather quickly and certainly not enough to affect the chicken supply. Super said. There are about 200 federally inspected chicken slaughtering plants in the U.S. and thousands more that further process chicken. I would not categorize this as an alarming trend. The U.S. Department of Agriculture said on its website that there are currently no food shortages or widespread disruptions of the food supply in the country, although availability of some products may be temporarily low at times. And PolitiFact recently spoke with food experts who said that even if the war in Ukraine affects supplies elsewhere, the U.S. is largely self-sufficient. Here's what we know about the fires. A fire destroyed the headquarters of Zero Standard, a distributor of organic food in Durfur, Oregon. The cause of the fire is still under investigation, the company said in a press release on April 19th. It said a few product lines may be affected, but the impact on operations should be limited and temporary. A fire destroyed a Taylor Farms processing facility in Salinas, California on April 13th. The company produces and distributes wholesale salad products and will now shift production to its Arizona facility. The company's CEO told KSBW Action News that it plans to rebuild the facility and that the fire was likely the result of a welding accident. On April 12th, a fire destroyed the East Conway Beef and Pork Butcher Shop and Slaughterhouse in Conway, New Hampshire. The cause of the blaze is still under investigation as of April 22nd, according to the New Hampshire State Fire Marshal's Office. A fire that destroyed the Penobscot, I don't know how you pronounce that, McCrum potato processing plant in Belfast, Maine, on March 24th was accidental, the Associated Press reported. Officials believe it started in a large deep frying machine, according to the Portland Press Herald. A March 16th fire caused extensive damage to a new production line dedicated to Hot Pockets at a Nestle plant in Jonesboro, Arkansas. But that fire was not the result of foul play or anything suspicious, but rather a welding accident, Jonesboro Fire Chief Kevin Miller said. A propane boiler explosion caused a fire that destroyed the Shearer's Foods potato chip plant in Northwest Oregon on February 22nd. It's not clear if the company will rebuild there, but its website said it has 12 production plants. A fire destroyed a building that used to be the home of Bonanza Meat Company in El Paso, Texas on February 15th. The building had been vacant for several years, according to a local CBS affiliate. A fire destroyed part of Wisconsin River Meat site in Mauston on February 3rd. The business serves as a meat processor for farms, livestock producers, and hunters in the region, and it also has a retail shop. The cause of that blaze was construction related, David Marr, the company's vice president and owner, told PolitiFact. The company was fulfilling pickup orders at its warehouse 3 days later and opened a new storefront on April 12th. An explosion and fire damaged Cargill Nutrina plant in Lecompte, Louisiana on January 13th. Cargill Nutrina did not return a request for comment, and then it's not clear if the site, which produces animal feed, had to halt production. A fire did extensive damage to a poultry processing plant in Hamilton, Ontario on January the 6th, according to CHCH-TV. The cause of the blaze wasn't clear from news reports. We reached out to Hamilton fire officials for comment, but have not heard back. A food processing plant in San Antonio, Texas, suffered about $100,000 in smoke damage, mostly to food, after a cooler was found on fire back on December 13th of 2021. On November 29, 2021, fire at a Maid-Rite Steak Company meat processing plant in Scott Township, Lackawanna County, Pennsylvania, was determined by fire officials to be an accident. The plant was left inoperable, and some products that were only produced there are no longer available, the company, which has other plants, said on its website. And it goes on and talks about the fires that have happened and gives an explanation. So, according to PolitiFact, their ruling, a Facebook post alleges that fires at 18 food processing plants in the past 6 months are a result of an intentional attempt to starve Americans. But of the 18 fires listed, 12 were ruled accidental, 2 are still officially under investigation, and no official rule can be announced on the 3 others. 1 was in Canada, 1 was at a vacant building, and 12 happened in the past 6 months. There is no evidence that any of these fires were intentional. There is no evidence that these fires have resulted in a food shortage crisis in the U.S. and could lead to starvation. We rate this claim as false. So, you've got different opinions on each side of the fence here. I don't give much to, Snoops and PolitiFact and these other fact-checking sites because I think that they can spin anything that they want to fit their own narrative. As far as, what's happening with this, I do know that there is a food shortage. I do know that food costs have increased tremendously. And I do know that things right now are not what they once were. So it's something that we're just going to have to watch and keep an eye on. I'd love to hear your opinion about this in the comments. Thank you, and y'all have a good night.